The last speaker for the day is Mr. Dushyanth Singh Jadeja. I think Vishy has already introduced him, but I would like to share one more thing. He would be sharing his learning and observations in applying AI in Indian healthcare system to be specific in diabetic retinopathy screenings. Please welcome.
Thank you, Vishy and the rest of the team for having me here. I'll be super honest with you. There's a lot of imposter syndrome here today because Mr. Ranjan spoke about it. A lot of people kind of was thinking about like what Google is doing in diabetic retinopathy and in general AI in healthcare. So I just want to kind of dumb it down a little bit, set the expectation. I won't be talking much about AI. But I'd rather be talking about how you could use the research, the models that has been developed in the healthcare space and make it into a product. So that's the kind of agenda of this talk. However, being an academician myself, if you have questions on AI, like how does the model development happen, what are the nitty-gritties and specifics of it, I'm happy to answer offline. Sounds okay? Yes? Okay, wonderful. So, financial disclosure, I work at Google. The second thing I forgot to mention, though my last name is Jadeja, I don't play cricket. So why AI in healthcare? I'll not spend much time. There has been many sessions today that are focused on why part of AI in healthcare. I think there were many sessions that also talk about what part of, what we should be doing. Like somebody spoke about bots, somebody spoke about intelligent solution, personalized medicine, I don't know, whatnot. But the key thing, why it is an interesting problem area for artificial intelligence is because of the data. Now, again, data can be multifold. There could be good data, there could be bad data, there could be partial data, there could be limited data, sensitive data. So tons of things comes into picture. But the sheer presence of data makes that entire industry kind of very conducive for artificial intelligence. I also want to be mindful that not all problems need AI solutions. There are many solutions which are without AI. And if you are working on one of those companies which does not use AI, and if it does not need, it's absolutely fine. You don't need to have a FOMO or saying, okay, I need to come up with an AI solution out there. The second thing why it makes sense is because of lack of expertise. It's been super interesting for me. My journey in healthcare started sometime 2016. My both parents are chronic diabetic patient, and I live in Bangalore, they live in remote part of India. And when I was trying to manage their illnesses, I realized that how kind of disconnected and unorganized our healthcare systems are. The experts are far and few, correct? In that case, how do you address this entire problem, and how can technology come and solve this problem? At Google, our mission is to organize world's information, correct? Now, this is health information. How do we organize that? So that's kind of, problem we took it on, and then kind of, look from that lenses. AI just happened to be one technique to solve that problem, but there could be many other techniques. I also want to highlight that we are not a healthcare company. We are a technology company. So we would be very, very cautious in terms of going to market all by ourselves. Our DNA is research. If you look at Google Health, the team that I'm part of it is basically formed by many years of research. So any product that we build, we would like to kind of first do a research and publish in a peer-reviewed journal at different stages of product life cycle. These are some of the examples I've mentioned here: JAMA, Nature, BMG, Lancet, you can name it. Correct? Many peer-reviewed journals we publish our papers. In fact, the diabetic retinopathy work that we have been doing, it was started in India in 2014. And recently, JAMA came up with the 10 research papers that were most cited in the decade, and diabetic retinopathy work was the third in that list of top 10. So we're really proud about that. Our focus is that we want to help, we want to move needle forward in healthcare, but we want to do it together. We want to share our knowledge because we are not a healthcare company. And chances are that we might make mistakes. We want clinicians, healthcare professionals to be accountable, make us accountable that, hey, Google, you're doing wrong. Correct, this is not how DR screening workflow should look like. So that's why I keep publishing a result. So this is like typical journey from a research to product. Folks from a startup background would probably understand them much better. So we are kind of, I will not cover this entire life cycle, but this is a life cycle, at least at Google Health, we follow for any new product or new research that we come out with that. My talk will be mostly focused on these two sections of it, but as I said, if you have any questions on the model development, validation, or even commercial deployments, I'm happy to answer those questions offline. Everybody is awake? Yes? Awesome, great. So let's start. So how do you think about like, I have this wonderful idea, and that could be in any problem, healthcare, any healthcare problem. How do I take it to market? So when I joined this team in 2016, the task I've been given that, hey, Dushyanth, here is the research. Now, how do you put that research into clinical workflows? Correct? Because all those efficacies and sensitivity, specificity, you can talk about AUC, that work fantastically well in a controlled environment. When you put this into clinical environment, there are so many variables. How do you ensure that your spec sensitivity meets that environment kind of challenges? So we came up with this mindset that we need to understand the environment where we are deploying our research. We need to understand, we need to build hypothesis, have a success metrics, understand constraint, and rather than finding solution about it, let's embrace them. Because you might be able to solve those constraints in one setting, but you may not be able to solve those constraints in every possible settings. And if you look at India healthcare system, it's like, very, very different. I mean, diabetic retinopathy workflow would be very different from one hospital to other hospital. Forget about the city to city or state to state. Correct? So you need to embrace those constraints and make your model, make your solution robust enough so that, no matter what those challenges are, it kind of performs at expected, outcome or specificity, sensitivity that you have expecting that. And the last thing is that, how do you monitor and improve your deployments on ground? Sounds okay? Yes? Cool. So I'm just taking an example of diabetic retinopathy, but this could be applied in many other settings. We have an interesting work going on breast cancer screening, on TB screening, lung cancer detection, and many imaging modalities here we are working there. But this one I'm just focusing on DR screening because I have worked on it like almost 2-3 years, and I'm a little bit confident than the other research that we have been doing there. So the goal here is to prevent needless blindness in remote areas. Like if I have a diabetic retinopathy in Bangalore, there are enough and many hospitals I could go and get myself screened. Possible? Yes? And there are enough experts who can help me in giving me education, helping me that, yes, Dushyanth, these are your treatment plan. You need to come back again. Maybe we have to do laser or NTVGF, I don't know, whatever the treatment that has been prescribed. But in remote areas where there are no doctors, correct, the prevalence of diabetes is really, really high. How do you ensure your solution is kind of, addressing that particular segment of patient? This is just a sample kind of an example. We have a tertiary care and there is a primary healthcare center. So first we need to establish a connection. You may be able to screen a patient, but if there is no tertiary care hospital which can treat the patient, then it's a really, really bad thing, correct? So you need to have that link early enough established. So we figured out one PHC and one tertiary care hospital. And then we try to understand the environment. What does the environment look like? So it's a remote environment, correct? The average patient volume is 20 to 30. It's predominantly a glass distribution center. So there is no doctor available. And there are some amazing nurses. These nurses have been working in the center for like almost 10 to 15 years. And in many ways, they are like, as good as doctor and in many ways better at doctors as well. Correct? So that's my environment. So I need to make my solution work in these conditions. I'm sure there are a few more, which I might have omitted it, but just want to give you an example. Now, next thing, I understand the environment. Like, now this is my environment. What are some of the things that I want to make it happen in this environment from a diabetic retinopathy screening perspective? So I need to build my hypothesis. I have a goal to prevent needless blindness in remote areas. Now in that, I have to build a hypothesis about my product. So what does hypothesis should contain? It should contain like maybe a solution, feature. It should talk about maybe user, what user you're trying to solve this particular problem, correct, benefits, and what is an outcome of this hypothesis. You need to figure out at the end of the day, like whether your hypothesis was right or wrong, correct? This is the one framework that I use. There are many frameworks. You can pick and choose that kind of works with you. So here we said, we believe that building X feature for Y population will achieve Z benefit. And we will know that we are successful when a particular success metric has a significant change. Sounds good? This is another difference between hypothesis and experiment. You could run it, how do you want it? But it basically talks about what is the problem statement, a little bit more details about all 4 parameters I spoke about it. So using that framework, this is my hypothesis. We believe that AI-driven DR screening for remote population will increase diabetic retinopathy screening ratio. At the end of the day, I want to increase that ratio, correct? If the people are not being screened, then they are definitely getting affected. But if they are screened, then I'm catching them early into the disease process. And I'll know that we are successful when percentage decrease. Let's say total of decrease in percentage or diabetic-related blindness, then I know that my effort has been successful. What are some of the constraints that we had? So I know this may sound like super weird, but the usability was a big thing when we kind of put cameras in our solutions. Like AI is such a really cool thing. Anything and everything people associate okay, this problem can be solved with AI. But when you go to ground level, when you go to PHCs, villages, taluk levels, you actually have to dumb down your solution. If you tell that this is AI, many times the nurses become overwhelmed with the potential of technology. At times they can become too dependent on it, which is bad. And at times, they are super cautious, okay, if I do something wrong, what will happen? Will it generate image by itself? So there's so many questions that we kind of figured out when we are doing deployments in some of our partner locations. So usability, make it super easy for them to understand how to use this solution. And don't use, if possible, don't use word AI. Trust me, it will win you a lot of brownie points. Second thing is the tech integration. First of all, not many hospitals are tech first or engineering first hospitals, and that's fair because their job is to treat patient, not really capture data, and it becomes difficult for you to integrate your solution into their health system. Could be HMS, EMR, or whatever it may be. Either the software is not really up to date with the latest technology trends. In one of the location I was there, and we were trying to integrate our solution, and then the front end was in VB6. I'm like, wow, who uses VB6? Correct? Sometimes, it was even really older technology. So there are really challenges. So how do you ensure your model works in different tech environments or tech stacks? Education. Many people don't know what DR screening is. I mean, half of the diabetes patients think cataract is the only thing they could get wrong. Correct? But if cataract is done, I will probably not get diabetic-related blindness, but that's not true. There's a glaucoma, there's a diabetic retinopathy, there's diabetic macular edema, there's an age-related macular degeneration, RVO. There are so many eye-related disease a diabetic patient could get, but the awareness, the education is not there. So we work with doctors to make all the patients aware about it. Again, it's not that successful, but there's an effort that we all are working there. And the last thing is the regulation and standards, correct? Okay, do I need to have an FDA in India? Do I need to have a CE mark in India? Can I just go live? Now, for large companies like us, it becomes a really challenging decision because we are always at the scrutiny of media, PR, Google is trying to do something which, they are trying to leverage on Indian population data. So in spite of it delays our time to market, we had to make conscious decisions. You know what? Let's not go into market without doing a regulatory certification. We did retrospective studies, published paper, prospective studies, published paper. All our data sets that we used is published on our paper. And then we feel, you know what? Now this is the right time for us to go and apply for certification. Once we have a certification, then we go with the commercial deployments. This is just one image of PHC where we are trying to screen a patient. Surprisingly, the challenge what we found is that the consent language was in different language. So patients were not really kind of aware, like we are taking the data, but they don't know what we are doing with that. So we localize that language. They can read it. Sometimes, and the beauty is that when we made the language, when we made the change in a language, the patient came back to us saying, you know what, this is wrong. You should probably write this way. This is how I feel comfortable in sharing data. Maybe you should remove these clauses. So it was really, really interesting. So talk to your patient, talk to your operators more often, and a lot of learnings comes from them. I promise this is the last third slide. Is an interesting one, mostly from a success metric point of view. How do you measure a success of AI model? Correct? If any of you have this question in your mind that okay, AI will give me 100% right result, that's wrong. You will have false positive and false negatives on environment, and you can't, trust me, you can't do anything about it. However, the key thing to understand, where are those false positive and false negatives? Correct? Is it happening really early into the disease progression? Is it happening late into disease progression? What is the cost of that misdiagnosis? Correct? So once you do that cost-benefit analysis, you will figure out what is actual usage of your model there. Again, there is a money being and time spent on this. So there's an interesting analogy. We did this. We wanted to understand how much money patient is losing if we do a false positive, and how much money is doctor losing if we do false negative. Correct? So an interesting analysis, we did it, and then we have some number that tries to understand this entire landscape of DR screening in India. The last word, AI chasm, I don't know if any of you have heard that. So AI chasm is a term that has been coined, which says that no matter how much good spec and sensitivity you have in lab, in environment, but if it does not translate in any patient benefit, then your model is not useful. Correct? I would go and say, I have a 98% in primary healthcare setting. Yes, fantastic. What does it mean? Nothing. Correct? I need to look at how many diabetic patients came to my clinic, how many were prone to diabetic retinopathy, and how many of them I was able to really do it, irrespective of the bad model performance. Correct? So AHSM is really, really interesting. I would rather focus on the spec sensitivity and accuracy really helps people boost their AI skills, strength, and capabilities. But actually on ground, how much workflow improvement you are doing has more benefit than the spec sensitivity. This is our model performance at the center. I just talked about it. Now we have a 95% confidence interval. We are super happy and proud about it. Is it good enough? No. Is it bad? Maybe, I don't know. But that's a good start that we have got. Our focus is to continuously look at areas of improvement. And most of the time you realize that, it's not just to do with model. It's to do with all the other aspects of diabetic retinopathy screening workflow. Hopefully we'll invest more and kind of keep that number high and tight. So quick summary. If you really want to kind of make your AI model or AI research or AI idea to make workable, focus on small things. Correct? I really recommend reading this book called Little Bets. It kind of helps you think in terms of small bets, and how the small bets and the kind of effort you put into there helps you translate something really, really big. There are some two interesting papers done by our colleagues. So the BMC medicine one done by our colleagues at DeepMind. They're focusing around what are key challenges in terms of looking at AI in clinical settings. And the second one is again, if I'm not wrong, done by Singapore Yang and Tim on translating AI into clinical care. With that, thank you for your time. You have been a wonderful audience. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. First of all, extremely sorry if I kind of run through it like swish in interest of time, but if you have questions, if I'm not able to answer, send me an email. I'm not the most responsive guy on email, but I will respond. Maybe a week or 2 weeks later, yes.
A lot of buzz. Yeah.
Check, check.
Yeah. So while Google was making a lot of buzz about this DSL for diabetic retinopathy, we had IDX-DR also coming in the market. So I was tracking both of them, and I'm not from a technical background. I don't know much about AI or neural networks. I just wanted to know, how do you differentiate yourself with IDX-DR?
Good question. So folks who don't know, IDX is the first FDA-approved DR screening solution. Again, a beautiful solution. I haven't had a chance to kind of see it in action, but whatever research paper I've read about it seems like really, really wonderful. So credit to the team who have kind of built that thing. So 2-3 things how I would look at, and again, it would be super high-level understanding because I haven't played around it, so don't hold me accountable for lack of my knowledge on IDX. Number one, IDX mostly works with the one camera, which is Topcon NW400. If you look at our solutions, we are camera agnostic. What we are focused is on image specification. So if any fundus photograph, which is the retina image, with a primary field of view, and if it's 1,000 by 1,000 kind of ratio, and if it's kind of macula centered, then kind of we take that as a valid input image to process our algorithm. Anything else, we kind of unrecognized. We don't know what that image is coming to us. So that's the first difference. Like camera agnostic, this camera specific. The second thing is also the number of images a model takes to kind of to process that particular input or request. In gold standard, let's say if without AI, if anybody has to do a diabetic retinopathy screening, the 7 field of view is a gold standard. So in your eye, there are different views. There's a primary view, there's a temporal, nasal, and a bunch of others there. And if you can do a montage, it's, if I'm not wrong, it's somewhere around like maybe 180 or 260 degree kind of image you get there. It's very difficult to take 7 images of one eye, 7 from other eye. Patient is also most of the time non-compliant. So the guidelines have evolved to do maybe 5 field of view, 3 field of view, or 1 field of view. So we are doing a 1 field of view. The key here is that, of course, when you have a 7 field of view, you have a more image. You are covering periphery of your retina. And the chances of misdiagnosis is very, very rare. When you're doing just a primary field of view, that means you are kind of removing all the area. However, in spite of that, if your accuracy is like 95, 96%, I would say it's kind of decent screening tool. It's not a diagnostic tool, it's a screening tool. So that's the second difference I would say. The third thing, I think, is also how do you detect pathology into the image. So let's say there are lesion-based detection technique. There are, there are different, ways you can kind of look at image as well from clinician's point of view. So I would say that's the third way of looking into it. I don't know if I answered your question. Okay. Sure.
Hello, sir. It was here.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
And technology, when we want to use technology. In fact, I'm a doctor and I'm doing my internship right now. I have a couple of designs where I can digitalize certain hearing tests and I can digitalize certain tests about muscle movements. But then I do not have the tech access. So does Google help us to access these things? So can we, you have any facilities such that we can access these things? And second thing, does Google Healthcare hire doctors as well?
Okay, good question. I'll answer the second question first. Yes, we do hire a doctor. In fact, so far I was the only employee in India, and we had one more, colleague of mine. She's a doctor, MBBS, and she's a diabetologist. She was doing a practice, and then she has a management background as well. So we do hire doctors. In fact, doctors keeps us honest. If you go to our headquartered in US, we have, I don't know, 200 doctors working with us on daily basis on a variety of, problem areas that we are focusing on. So yes, we do hire doctors. The first question that you mentioned is there a space where you could kind of, talk to somebody and get more perspective on the problem that you're solving? And the second thing, I'm not sure in terms of like, because I don't understand the problem as much as you do, correct? So it would be difficult for me to kind of comment on a solution or possible way kind of to collaborate. But yes, if you want to, come and share your ideas with us, we are happy to kind of protect, if we will sign an NDA with you, will not really make a product out of it. We are a researcher first and then product company second. So we have a research lab in Bangalore. You have my email address, send me a note. Happy to host you over a lunch or dinner, whatever works with you.
Check.
I am Manoj from International Data Corporation. We were hearing about this AI in DR with Aravind Hospital. I just want to know, is it still under trial stage, or has it really crossed that particular aspect? Yeah.
No, so we have crossed the trial stage.
Okay.
We have a commercial deployments at Aravind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you doing only with Aravind now at this stage, or you're planning to?
Now you're pushing me to the corner. No, we are not doing just with Aravind. We have a few other partners as well.
Because it's a great solution for ultimately leading to the patient's needless blindness. So it's
Yes.
really nice. So just one more question.
Sure.
What's the kind of, in such kind of AI software solution part, what's the kind of approval? Is it still FDA approval that is?
Right now, we have filed in pre-sub for FDA. So FDA has a process. You have to find a pre-sub, and then they'll kind of give you comment on what's the readiness of your solution look like. They'll have a comments, and then there's a lot of back and forth happens. Once your pre-sub gets approved, then you go for a trial, and then after trial, if you pass it, you get an FDA certification. If you don't pass, you don't get it. So that's a process. We have filed for pre-sub. We are CE compliant right now. We got a CE certificate sometime last year, December 2018, and since then we have been live in India for almost a year now. We have screened like a few thousands of patients. I would say even more than that. I would say that, and yeah, we are confident that I think we are on the right track. Is there a scope for improvement? Absolutely. I think it's a journey that we are taking it forward. So hopefully, yeah, we'll be able to expand to even more environments.
Thank you, Dushyanth.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dushyanth. I'd like to invite Dr. Ramesh and Dr. Ravish Murthy to give away the mementos.